Remembrance is important, like very important. Remembering each soldier who fought and died for our own freedom. Remembering every man who fought in the dirty, damp, cold trenches of World War I. And of course, remembering the men who fought for our freedom in World War II against a repressive and horrific regime. But you see, when we think of remembrance, and particularly the 11th of November, many just think about the men who fought and died in World War I and World War II. Which in of itself, of course, is very important. They were the two most important wars of the world, and the men and women who did anything towards the war effort deserve to be remembered. But to me personally, remembrance is about remembering all wars. The Vietnam War, the Korean War, the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, the Falklands War, and even the Yugoslav wars. All wars for that matter need to be remembered, whether they're in the past or in the present. I myself personally think it's very important we remember the men and women who fought and died for our freedom, because my family is very militaristic and very military career focused. My uncle fought in Iraq, my other uncle served in the Navy, and even my granddad served as a Royal Guardsman and then earlier on served within Germany. One way as a gamer I like to try and remember soldiers who have fought and died for my freedom is by playing games that represent certain conflicts that have actually taken place and happened. Whether it be Call of Duty World War II missions or Vietnam missions, or maybe more modern tactical shooters, I try to remember through the media that I most resonate with, video games. And maybe one day, that day being last Remembrance, the Remembrance that just passed, I decided to boot up Battlefield 1 to try and remember the men who particularly fought in World War I. But what do you immerse yourself in a game like this where the game is so focused on telling so many stories about World War I? Well, I decided to simply play the introductory mission. Battlefield 1 has many different war stories. Stories within the game inspired on actual real world events that happened in World War I, which the player get to play through by playing the war stories. However, before you choose whatever particular war story you want to play, you can do the introduction mission, Storm of Steel. The level starts with a shot of an uneasy soldier in bed, and we can see him tossing and turning. In an instant, he is thrown back into the mists of heated battle. The soldier takes a look around, while in the background we the player can hear the song Dream a Little Dream. By Ella Fitzgerald. The song is oddly fitting considering not only is the soldier we watching experiencing all this through a dream, but most men were sold a dream when they signed up for the war effort, but in fact of course were lied to. The opening cinematic shows the all-out brutality that was World War I. We see men engaging in hand-to-hand combat and melee combat, all while our soldier stands starstruck at the whole event, even watching his own fellow comrades be slain. The cinematic ends off with the music slowly fading out and the soldier returning to the harsh reality of war. This opening cinematic is perfect. It lasts just 1 minute and 10 seconds, but it's so good. The game wastes no time in saying, look, you wanted a campaign? Well fine, you're not getting no Halo or Call of Duty cutscene here, you're straight into World War I. This cinematic is so in the player's face, showing off the brutality which was World War I and the damaging effect it left on its soldiers, leaving them in terrible mental conditions, giving them many forms of PTSD, which at the time would simply be called shell shock. The cinematic is incredible and it sets the tone for the first mission perfectly. Text appears telling the player that Battlefield 1 is based upon events that unfolded over 100 years ago. The game then gives you a statistic that more than 60 million people fought in the war to end all wars, and the game then tells the player two things: that this war to end all wars ended nothing but changed everything. But what does all this mean and why is it in the game? Well, it's simple. World War I did change everything. Everything from how deadly wars were, to how we fought them, to what humans used to fight said wars. But yet this war ended nothing, as just a few years later, single-handedly the most deadliest human conflict would start, World War II. The game tells players that Battlefield 1 is based on events that happened over 100 years ago to remind the player how long ago this war truly happened, but yet how human it was. The end two most powerful lines are as follows. What follows is frontline combat. You are not expected to survive. The game hands you the controls, and you are told by a nameless soldier that you are surrounded and you need to hold this position.
We're surrounded! We have to hold this line!
You can see wounded being dragged off behind you and see the utter damage this war has done. Your only bit of cover being a half blown up unidentifiable building that you have to use as your only cover. You hear the sounds of whistles being blown and then you see it. What seems like countless enemy soldiers running and gunning for your position. You begin to tear through them in what seems like the hundreds as your big heavy machine gun makes light work of their soft unarmored bodies. Slowly your comrades fall in the dozens around you as more and more enemy soldiers try to take your position. You'll notice that maybe even your gun runs out of ammo and you have to quickly scavenge for a new one. Countless amounts of bullets flying all around you. Slowly you are overrun as more and more of your men fighting alongside you are killed in action. The game goes into slow motion and the game's screen turns black and white as you take more and more damage. Then, in an instant, the player finally dies. The game then zooms out, showing you, the player, dying, and a name appears with a date from when this person was born to when they died. Now, no, these are not real World War I soldiers, I checked, but it helps the player to understand that the people who did fight in World War I were real people who did have real names and were born all at different points in time to fight in this catastrophically terrible war. I find it interesting that the game devs decided to withhold the information about the player's name until they die, as if the player isn't important until they have died. It's almost saying that soldiers aren't really remembered until they're dead, and I kind of agree with that, sadly.
Do you think I wanted any of this? We are cogs in the machine, Joseph. We start going our own way, the whole thing breaks down. When did you forget that?
These are men! Our men! When did you forget?
We get a short monologue from a soldier talking about how people came from all over the world to fight during World War I, which of course we know to be true. Many of which thinking, like I said before, they were coming for a great adventure and a good time, but of course were lied to. We switch perspectives to a soldier just a little way away from the combat we just experienced. We switch perspectives to a soldier with a mounted machine gun shooting at enemies coming forward through trenches. We are tasked with once again holding this line until the end. The gun post is blown up and looking all around you can see your men fighting to survive. You must now hold this shattered church with a shotgun. Soldiers with flamethrowers storm your position and begin to burn the place to shreds. You are quickly overrun. Once more you succumb to the enemy's overwhelming numbers and the name of your soldier appears once you die. Monologue the other soldier was saying carries on, and he talks about how the allies of the war made a tank. We then switch perspective to a tank gunner.
Our boys in the church are overrun! We need to push through! KBI are counting on us!
We see the church our past soldier was just in, and it truly shows us the horrors of war and the hard fact that war does not discriminate against any buildings or any religions. It will kill you. You go past chaos, destruction, passing wounded men, and even hearing the voice of a British soldier from inside your tank pointing out that the Air Force is here to help you in whatever attack this is you're involved in.
Let's not fly, boys up there! Keep your eyes on the ground, son!
You see German soldiers all around you and you tear through them with your big machine gun, completely wiping them out in an instant. The enemy is now on the back foot and appears to be weak, running at just the sight of your incredibly large and terrifying vehicle. The men are patriotic and seem to be filled with confidence. One incredible detail you can spot is a German soldier suffering from shell shock / PTSD on the battlefield. Sat curled up in a ball, terrified. To be honest, it's quite a disturbing scene when you really think about it, as it makes the player feel really bad for the people who have been trying to kill them the whole game, as it just makes the Germans feel very human and just like the player, except this time they're on the back foot and you're chasing them down, mowing them down. The game also gives the player a really clever choice without the player even knowing. You can choose to kill these men, not just the ones having a PTSD attack, but the ones who are running away from the gunfire as well. This of course is a massive war crime and is very unethical. However, the game lets the player decide what they want to do, as many crimes like this happened during World War I. And this just makes Battlefield 1 feel so much more grounded and realistic and true to what actually occurred during the events of World War 1. A fellow tank comrade beside you is blown up, so you must take down a shelling position. Do this with success, so now you must keep moving forward, killing anyone in your way, pushing forward and never stopping for anyone or anything. You seem to be clearing a path with ease, but just as one of your fellow tank soldiers shouts that they've made it, that they're going to make it, the tank is blown up into smithereens and nothing but tiny pieces seem to be left. This is when the name of your player is revealed. Once more, the monologue continues and the soldier says that the only true equalizer in war is death, which when you really think about it is true.
Instead of adventure, we found fear. And in war, the only true equalizer is death.
We're only really truly viewed as equal once you both die in war. Switch to a soldier in a trench and you were in a gas attack. In World War 1, gas attacks were deadly and gruesome. You equip your gas mask and head into battle, seeing the chaos of war all around you. Frontline is completely brutal here. It appears that everyone is just fighting everyone, trying to desperately kill each other in a midst to survive. In this case, you the player are most likely to get shot very quickly and die very quickly, just because of the sheer amount of chaos that this war has caused on this front line. See men wildly shooting each other, men with gas masks on, and men suffering from PTSD. It's once again up to you, the player, to kill these men, let them live, or simply die. This front line, there is truly chaos everywhere. Once again, the name of the soldier is revealed, and then it switches very quickly this time. We instantly switch perspective to another soldier, this time without any form of a monologue. We switch to a new soldier who seemed to be very close to the last man we played as. Just like the previous soldier we played as, we are already in a raging battle and must fight to the death. At this point, the music has heavily intensified and the non-stop gunshots and shouting is intensely loud for the player's ear. We can see a huge enemy airship slowly plummeting towards the earth, engulfing itself in a flame as it does so, as more and more enemies unfold on your position. You can use your bayonet to charge at an enemy and then fire at them from a distance with your rifle. Eventually, you are overrun and killed, the name of your soldier being displayed when you die. You are then switched between several different soldiers, all in the same battle. One by one you fight and fall together, each man's name being displayed before you die and then move on to the next man. This by far is the longest battle and biggest battle you've been in yet. The chaos and destruction seems endless and your men are dying around you as you kill the enemy coming forward at you. You can see countless numbers of normal men, tanks and even flame troopers all around you. This is truly all-out war and destruction. Switching to the next soldier, once more there is no monologue. You are just straight into the action and you play as a soldier who was one of the men next to the man you just died as previously. You are instantly placed into slow motion as more and more enemy forces approach and engulf your position. There is nothing you can do but try and desperately hold your position. In the end, a man hits you over the head and then an airstrike happens, causing your screen to go black. The last and final cinematic shows your man slowly getting up from the rubble. Spotting a German enemy soldier, he aims his gun at him, and so does the German. We can assume this German was knocked unconscious in the artillery strike just like you. We see that the man you're playing as is the same man seen in the opening cinematic of the first mission. The end monologue talks about how each soldier, each man pushes the same push to try and stop and end this war, end this horrific war that they're a part of. We get an incredibly powerful end shot which shows our man and the German soldier aiming their guns at each other, surrounded by countless dead around them. Slowly, they stop aiming their guns at each other, probably realizing that they are not each other's true enemies. The end monologue reminds the player that behind every nameless gun, behind every enemy you kill, is a human being, is a real person.
The war is the world, and the world is the war. But behind every gun sight is a human being. We are those people. We are the jaded. We are the naive, we are the honorable, and the criminal. We are the bound for legend, and the lost to history. We are the knights of the sky, the ghosts in the desert, and the rats in the mud. These are our stories.
In conclusion, Battlefield 1's opening mission was incredible. It was an opening that left many players feeling unsettled but yet understanding of what some of the horrors were that soldiers had to face during World War I. The game does an incredible job at humanizing the soldiers who fought during World War I, helping the player to understand that the men you were gunning down were real people. It also helps the player to understand that the gunman you were playing as may not be a real person in World War I from Battlefield, but they were real in the actual war. Every man in World War I was a real person, obviously, and that to me is a really deep focus. The game's opening mission also just does an overall fantastic job at representing World War I and the atmosphere it had. All that being said, it's not perfect. There are a few things I would change, such as the hit markers and kill markers, as well as the HUD. This kind of cinematic, story-driven mission, the player, in my opinion, really doesn't need to see their HUD or their ammo or their health, and I think the mission would be more impactful and more cinematic without it. And the same can be said for hit markers. The player doesn't need to be told when they're hitting something. They can assume that when the enemy dies. But to be fair, the hit markers one is something that just really bugs me. I just don't like seeing hit markers in campaigns or stories. It's fine in multiplayer, that's absolutely fine, but in stories and campaigns and cinematic and story experiences, I don't want to see my hit markers. Those really are minor things, and they don't take away from the overall impact of the level and the level's experience itself. I mean, overall, Battlefield 1, in my opinion, or Battlefield 2016, whatever you want to call it, is one of my favorite games ever, and it is in my top 5 favorite first-person shooters, I think, anyway. And to me, anyway, this first mission just further cements how good Battlefield 1 is, and is a true masterclass in terms of missions. Well guys, that is it for the video today. I hope you all have enjoyed, and a like and subscribe would be very much appreciated. I hope you guys have been doing well. Tell me your thoughts on the video, tell me your thoughts on Battlefield 1, and tell me your thoughts on what your favorite introduction first-person mission is to a game. Thank you guys ever so much for your support on the channel. The last video did fucking horrific, so I'm hoping that this video can get some more views and maybe I can actually make some money. But anyway, who cares? Thank you guys ever so much for watching. Truly appreciate it. It means a lot to me. And yeah, let me know what you did for Remembrance, as well as letting me know what your favorite first-person shooter is overall as well. The next video will be a big one on Fallout 4, so I hope you will all stay tuned and enjoy that. In terms of reviews, I am working on, or getting towards working on one at the moment. They just take time, so I hope you guys will be patient and just stay with me. Anyway guys, thank you ever so much for watching. You guys are the best. God bless you all, and yeah, stay safe guys. In a bit. Peace.